What's up, guys? It's Wally. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 new Pokemon that I think are going to be really great in Regulation D. Now, as always with these videos, these are my opinions, and really they're just based off of my experience with the Pokemon, their stats, abilities, move pools, things like that, and of course, how much I think that you're going to be seeing them in the meta. Of course, this isn't a definitive list, just my thoughts and my opinions. So we'll get into the list, but before we do, as always, if you guys are new here, just haven't yet, please make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. If you guys do enjoy the video, please make sure to drop a like too. But let's get into this list. We start out at number 5 with Ursaluna. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys know about Ursaluna, mainly because of its insane attack stat and really incredible bulk. But when you put that together with its abilities and deep move pool, then you have a Trick Room tank that's going to be really difficult to take down. I mean, think of this thing as kind of like a ground normal type Iron Hands, just with a little less HP and a little more special defense. I mean, if you look at their attack stats, they are pretty much the same. It's at 140 for both of them. The only difference is with Guts, which is one of the abilities. But what Guts does is basically anytime that the Pokemon is statused, its attack will go up to 50% of what it normally is. So even if you get burnt, which typically takes the attack stat and halves it, you're going to be still getting that 50% boost. So you'll be getting that 50% boost to attack, whereas like Iron Hands with Quark Drive would only get a 30% boost to its attack if the attack stat is the highest stat that it has. And even if you didn't want to go with Guts, both Bulletproof and Unnerve are both really good abilities as well. So Bulletproof will make you immune to all bullet moves, which are pretty much all bomb and ball moves. So things like Seed Bomb, Energy Ball, things like that won't be hitting you. And especially since you are a ground type as well, being able to be immune to those grass type moves is going to be really beneficial. And then with Unnerve, anytime that it's going to be on the field, any Pokemon that's on the field won't be able to eat a berry. And even though I know for some people that doesn't seem like much, but think about how many times you may have been up there against like an Amoonguss or an Arcanine, and it was able to survive for another turn because it was able to get either like that Citrus Berry, a Wiki Berry, or another berry like that to be able to have it survive for that extra turn. So really, it could be extremely beneficial. Other than that though, it does have a really incredible move pool, like I said. I mean, if you look at it, if we look at just like the physical moves, because we know we're going to be using it as a physical attacker, right? I mean, look at all the different ones we have. I mean, we have an ice move, fighting, normal, ground, dark, fire, poison, a steel, like fairy even, like, and play rough. That's a really strong move. It's a really good one to have. I mean, yeah, it's got that 90% accuracy, but also having that chance to lower the attack by a stage too, I think is really great. I mean, we've seen that on a couple other like Fairy Terra Pokemon, so that's always a great move to have. But like you have Grass, Ghost, and even if you want to go down to like Flying with Aerial Ace, Fury Cutter with Bug, as a bug type, like you have a lot of coverage here. I think it's like a total like 15 different types in its physical move pool or something like that. So that basically makes it so that, like, again, you can cover for a lot of your weaknesses, as well as make it so that you can have a lot of interesting, like, different Terra types that you can go with as well. I mean, again, a lot of people do end up going with more of like a defensive Terra and then kind of find a way to work with that. But with Ursaluna, if you want, you can always make it a very offensive Terra and have a lot of fun with it. And even if you didn't want to go with like one of those like other Terras or something like that, you can even go with the normal or the ground to be able to get that 2x stab. And with that really strong attack stat, it could be really incredible. And even if you go with a move, like where is it? Like Facade right here. It's a 70 power move, but the power gets doubled if you are statused. And so Ursaluna, which already gets the benefit from Guts, if you have Facade, that goes up to like a 140 power move. And then, of course, with the 50% boost from Guts and it being a potential 2x stab if you're a Terra Normal, like that's going to do a ton of damage. And think about if you have Chien Pao out there as well. Like, it's going to do a lot of, like, really, really good things. So, again, Ursaluna has a lot of different Terra types and a lot of different moves. So, you can have a lot of fun. And so, don't be so sure you're going to see, a normal Terra out there to go with the Facade. So be sure to be on the lookout if they potentially go with like a different Terra or something like that. Either way, it is a really great Trick Room Pokemon and one that I think you might see paired up with another Pokemon that's going to be on this list a little later on. Coming in at number 4, we have the Genies. And yeah, all of them. I figured, just to have a little bit of diversity on this list, I figured you may as well take all 4 Genies and kind of put them into one category. I mean, I know they all aren't the same, and as you can see here, we have 5 of them up here. all 4 of the Genies, and then you have the Therian type of Landorus as well. And the main reason for that is because I think the Therian Landorus is really the only like Genie here that could actually viably work as the Therian form. And the main reason for that is because of its ability Intimidate, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, and also because if you look at its stats as well, it's a 145 attack stat, and does have a lot of strong physical moves as well. I mean, if you look, it does have Earthquake, which is a great spread move, and of course it does end up acting as a stab as well, which is extremely nice. Other than that, though, I mean, again, you just have a lot of really good physical moves. I know Rock Slide is a really popular one as well. But either way, you have a lot of good options. So I know that the Therian Landorus is going to be pretty popular as well. But again, I think all 4 of the Genies are going to get a lot of use too. I mean, I know a lot of you guys ended up playing Sword Shield and even, generations before that as well. And you guys know how strong these Genies are and how useful they are as well. I mean, each of the Genies have, like, really good abilities too. And looking at Landorus, it's got Sand Force and Sheer Force, both of which are pretty good because both of them end up powering up moves that Landorus has. Obviously, one of them is in a Sandstorm, and the other one basically nullifies the extra effects of that move. But still, being able to get that free Life Orb without taking any damage, I think is really beneficial. And then, of course, with Thundurus, it is a Prankster Pokemon, as well as having Defiant. Tornadus is the same exact thing. And even though both of them do have a higher special attack stat than a physical attack stat at 125 and 115. But having the chance to get the Defiant boost with the attack stat is really great, especially for a Pokemon like Thundurus too. But Prankster and Defiant, both really, really incredible abilities. And then Enamorus, which is the last one. It does have Cute Charm, which, I mean, cool. But really, the hidden ability is the main one, which is Contrary. And there are a couple other Pokemon that get this as well, but pretty much what happens is that any kind of stat change that Enamorus would get, it would do the opposite. So think about like a Pokemon that would end up using Eerie Impulse into you, that would end up lowering your special attack by 2 stages. If you end up getting Eerie Impulse with Enamorus and you do have Contrary, it'll end up going up by 2 stages. And that's why I think Contrary is better than Defiant in that sense, because at least in terms of self-procking and things like that, you can always self-proc with Contrary. You can't with Defiant. So if you ended up going with something like a Scary Face or that Eerie Impulse into a Defiant Pokemon, it's not going to really get that attack boost. However, with the Contrary, if you do go the Eerie Impulse into your own Pokemon, with like Enamorus and all that, you'd end up getting that +2 boost to your special attack. So there are going to be a lot of strategies out there, and I'm sure some of you guys that have already started crafting your Reg D teams or played over on Showdown have seen some strategies like that, where they'll get like a Prankster Pokemon like Grimmsnarl, or even one of the Genies as well, and they'll use Eerie Impulse, Scary Face, or something like that to be able to speed it up, bulk it up, or be able to make it even stronger. So I think that's a really cool strategy that a lot of people are going to end up doing, and why I think Enamorus with Contrary is more fun than, I guess, like a Defiant Pokemon. But at the same time, too, I think all of these abilities are really, really good and are going to make them really popular Pokemon as well. And again, I think Tornadus is going to be a really popular Pokemon because of the Prankster, because of its access to both Tailwind and Taunt. Both are really great moves, and especially since you want to be able to have that priority with moves like this, you know, it doesn't matter how fast like a Screamtail or a Fluttermane or another Pokemon like that is, you're always going to have the priority with the Prankster with like the Tailwind or the Taunt. So the fact that you know that you're going to essentially go first, unless something has, you know, like extreme speed or like a Rage Powder, or a faster Pokemon has, another priority move, you know you're pretty much going to be going first. So the fact that you'd be able to get that priority Tailwind or a Taunt, I think is going to be really nice. And also, if we look down here too, it does have access to Rain Dance, which I'm sure is something I'm sure you guys are going to be seeing quite often too, because it's going to be able to power up those water moves from, you know, like the water type Urshifu, Palafin, and other water types like that. So I think it's going to be really great from that perspective. And also, it would make its like new exclusive move, as well as the new one for Landorus and Thundurus. Sorry, Enamorus, not you, but those three will be able to have their new like exclusive move able to hit 100% of the time, which normally it is 80%, but it'll be able to hit 100% of the time in the rain. So that's another reason why I think a lot of people will end up carrying Rain Dance. Which then, of course, leads me to my last point. It is the brand new moves that they're going to be using. Now, I wrote these down so I don't have to like find these all here, so you guys don't have to watch me kind of like search my way through here. But I'll just look at Tornadus's first. But if we look at the power and the accuracy of Tornadus's move here, they all have the same power, the same accuracy at 180%. But like I said, in the rain, hits at 100%. But they all also have an additional chance of doing something to the opposing Pokemon. So you can see with Tornadus, it is called Bleak Wind Storm, which is a flying type, and has a 30% chance to lower the foe's speed by 1 stage. So if we look at the other Pokemon, Landorus received the move Sandsear Storm, which is a ground type move and also has the potential to burn opponents. Thundurus received Windbolt Storm, which is an electric move, which also has the potential to paralyze opponents. And then Enamorus, which again, unfortunately doesn't hit 100% in the rain and still only has that 80% accuracy, is called Springtide Storm, which has the potential to lower the attacks of your opponents. So again, all of these 100% accurate in the rain with the exception of this one, but otherwise all 100 power and all are spread moves as well. Now the addition of these moves does kind of seem to be overkill for Pokemon that were already really, really good, but one that I'm sure fans of these Pokemon really aren't going to complain about. At number 3, we have Regieleki. Now, if you guys ended up playing Sword Shield, then you guys know why this Pokemon is on this list. And it's got a 100 attack and special attack stat, which is respectable, but when you take into account its ability, which Transistor, which did, fortunately, I believe, get nerfed from 50% down to 30%, but it's going to take that electric type attack and multiply it by 30%. So it's essentially just kind of like, you know, a free life orb. Again, kind of like what we talked about with Sheer Force, being able to get that 30% boost while, you know, obviously taking away the extra effect of a move, but Regieleki doesn't have to worry about taking away an extra effect. It's just going to get that boost to the electric type moves. So being able to get that 30% is going to make that a little bit stronger, but the big thing is its speed stat, which is a 200 base stat. So if we look at that, I mean, without any investment at all, that's 220 at level 50. Now, if we do like a full investment in speed, obviously it's not going to be Jolly, it'll be something like Timid. But if we end up doing that, its speed stat is at 277. Now that is really, really fast. Now that's like 30 points off of a booster speed Iron Bundle or Fluttermane. I mean, that's pretty crazy when you think about it. And this is without any boost at all. Now I get it, it doesn't necessarily have the deepest move pool. I mean, if we look here, for the most part, if we look at just like attacking moves, and if you look at the special, and you have Ancient Power, all electric moves pretty much. And then, of course, if you look at just like the physical moves as well, and the only thing that you get from like an electric move is just acrobatics and a bunch of normal type attacks. So you really don't have a diverse move pool. However, it does have the benefit of being a really good speed control Pokemon too. Because if we look at its move pool and the special attacks, it does have the ability to get a move called Electro Web, which is a spread move and does have a 95% accuracy, but for the most part, you are going to hit it. But any Pokemon that it hits, it guarantees to lower its speed by 1 stage. So if that allows your allied Pokemon to outspeed the other 2 Pokemon, you could potentially get 2 knockouts before even having to worry about them moving to you. And truly, that's an asset to any team. And other than that too, even though it doesn't have a diverse move pool, it does have access to Terra Blast. So, obviously every Pokemon has access to Terra Blast, but the good thing about that is last generation, obviously Regieleki didn't, and it also didn't have the ability to Terrastalize into a different typing. Now, Regieleki is extremely frail, so it's not like Terrastalizing is going to give you much of a defensive, real benefit, I guess. However, you do have the ability, of course, to go with the Terra Blast. So if you do Terrastalize into something like Ice, I know is going to be a really popular one, because obviously with the electric type moves, you're not going to be able to hit ground type Pokemon, and it's also going to be resisted by Pokemon like grass type Pokemon. So if you do Terrastalize into Ice and go with Terra Blast into either of those 2 Pokemon, you're going to be hitting for super effective damage. And of course, with a Pokemon like Landorus, which is one that we just mentioned a little bit ago, that is a ground and a flying type, which means it does have a 4x weakness to Ice. So if we do use Terra Blast over into there, even if we don't have any investment in the attack or the special attack, which it's Regieleki, we definitely are, but if for some reason we didn't, that still should end up knocking out Landorus. So again, Regieleki, especially with Terrastalization, I think is going to be really good in Regulation D. At number 2, we have a Pokemon that I honestly thought was going to fly a bit under the radar, only because in the last generation with Dynamax, and of course with a Gigantamax Urshifu, definitely kind of made the Pokemon a little difficult to use. But still, a lot of people have been talking about it, and I completely agree. But number 2 is Cresselia. I think Cresselia is a really incredible Pokemon, and one that I think is going to be a real pain for people, especially ones that really underestimate it as well. I mean, if we look at the stats, I mean, yeah, its attack, special attack, and speed are really nothing to be like, oh wow, that's a really great Pokemon. 70, 75, 85, not the best, but look at that bulk. It's HP at 120, defense at 110, special defense at 120. That thing is going to be really difficult to take out, and since it has access to moves like Trick Room and things like that, it's going to be a really great Pokemon to use, and probably one of the most reliable Trick Room setters out there as well. Again, this isn't the strongest Pokemon out there, but its ability to tough out a bunch of attacks, set Trick Room, use Ally Switch, have the ability to Levitate, and even its new move are reasons why I think its usage is going to really be up. And wait, I'm sorry, did I just say new move? Oh, yeah. You guys didn't hear about the new move? If you guys haven't, you guys are in for a huge surprise. Something that I'm sure a lot of you guys that want to use Cresselia are going to be really excited about, but something that I think a lot of people who are going to be facing Cresselia are really not excited about. And this move is called Lunar Blessing. So if you can see here, the user and its allies are healed for 1/4 of their max HP, and their status is cured. So you have a physical Pokemon that's burnt, you have a Pokemon that's got 1 HP and is just about to faint because of poison, or you have, a really strong attacker that's asleep. Yeah, not anymore. You don't have to worry about that. You get that little bit of heal, and you also don't have to worry about your status anymore. And that is extremely beneficial. I mean, think about how many times you've gone out there with an Iron Hands that ended up getting burnt, or how many Pokemon you've had to put Lumberry on because you had to worry about, the burn, or even sometimes, of course, sleep as well. But if you have a Pokemon out there that's able to heal you up a little bit and take that status away, wow, man, I don't want to say that's a cheat code, but that's something that's going to be extremely beneficial going forward. And that's also part of the reason why I think that Cresselia and Ursaluna are going to be really great together as well. And don't get me wrong, yeah, I know with Lunar Blessing, you're going to end up healing up the burn or whatever status you end up putting on your Ursaluna. But if you're holding something like the Flame Orb or something like that, you're always going to be able to reproc it too. So it's nice from that perspective. It's not always great that you have to reproc it, but at the same time, being able to heal yourself up too, I think is going to be really great. And again, Cresselia's ability to set Trick Room and be really great with that, I think is really beneficial. So if you see this Pokemon on the other team, don't take it for granted. Don't ignore it just because you think it's not going to do a lot of damage, because this thing is going to be one of the best supporters in the game, and again, one of the most reliable Trick Room setters in Regulation D. Now, how could the number 1 spot go to a Pokemon other than the one that has a signature move that hits for a crit every single time, and a signature ability that hits through Protect whenever the hell it wants? Now, honestly, I could probably just stop the explanation right there because those are 2 pretty darn good points to make it the number 1 Pokemon, but I think we can go into a little bit more of an explanation. Now, there are 2 different types of Urshifu. Now, the first one is the Fighting Dark type, which is the Single Strike one, and the Rapid Strike one is a Fighting Water. Now, the Water one, I think, is the one that's going to be better and the one that's going to be more common as well, but I think that both could definitely work on different teams. Now, they both do have the same stats, so it's 100 for the HP, 100 for the defense, and 60 for special defense. So decent bulk, especially from a physical standpoint. Not so much from the special defense, but still not too bad. But they both have the physical attack stat at 130, which is really strong. But truly, it's their attack and their ability that make them so special. And if we look at the ability, Unseen Fist essentially just ignores the target's protection. Except for Max Guard, but we don't have Dynamax anymore, so that really kind of gets negated. So anytime that, you see an Urshifu out on the field and it's on the other side, make sure you don't worry about Protect because it's still going to be able to hit you anyways. But their exclusive moves are really incredible too. So if we look at the Rapid Strike, we do have Surging Strikes, which always hits 3 times, and always hits for a critical hit. I mean, it's a 25 power, but when you take into account the critical hit, that hits extremely strong. And especially when you consider it's also a stab move as well. Yeah, yikes. And especially if it hits through Protect, yeah, again, no real protection there. Whereas with the other Urshifu, it is called the Wicked Blow. It only hits once, but of course always results in a critical hit. It is a 75 power, so pretty much when you take into account, hitting 3 times with Surging Strikes, technically they are the same power. So really, in a way, they are kind of the same. But with Surging Strikes, since you hit 3 times, if a Pokemon does have Focus Sash, you don't really have to worry about the Focus Sash. The Wicked Blow will take it all the way down to the Focus Sash and keep it there. But if you have Surging Strikes, no matter how many turns it takes, if you hit 3 times, it'll ignore the Focus Sash as long as it's not on the first turn. So even if it does hit the Focus Sash on the first turn, it'll hit a second time and be able to knock it out. So really, that's why I think Surging Strikes are really going to be better. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, there are going to be a lot of Rain Dance Pokemon out there, as well as potentially some Pelipper to just automatically set Rain Dance. But with that, Surging Strikes is going to hit even harder because you get the benefit of the rain. Wicked Blow doesn't really have a terrain or a weather or anything like that kind of boosts it up the same way that rain boosts up Surging Strikes. Now on the flip side, of course, if there is the sun out, it does end up weakening a bit. So at least from Wicked Blow's standpoint, you don't have to really worry about the sun. So again, no real boost or detriment to it. Whereas with Surging Strikes, you do have the ability to have either. But again, if you do end up setting the rain yourselves, you can get a super powered attack right there. And again, that's part of the reason why I think Rapid Strike is going to be more common than the Single Strike. And of course, there are a couple abilities as well that really prevent Surging Strikes from hitting. You have Storm Drain, Water Absorb, and things like that as well. So there are more things that can kind of take away some power from the Surging Strikes, but also things to kind of strengthen it as well. Kind of depends on the risk that you want to take with that. But again, I think the Water type move is going to be really great. But again, be careful of like Storm Drain and things like that as well. Now, there are other things to kind of, take away from, the strength of the Surging Strikes and the Wicked Blow as well. There are a couple abilities that, kind of limit, or I shouldn't say limit, but take away the ability of hitting with a critical hit. So what that would do in that instance is just hit for normal damage. So you wouldn't get the benefit of the critical hit. So say, for instance, you have like the Hisuian Gudra, which has used Acid Armor or Shelter or something like that to get the defense boost. It totally ignores the critical hits ability to ignore those boosts, so you're only going to be hitting for minimal damage. And so those are some counters to, things like that. But for the most part, those are abilities that only a couple Pokemon have. So you don't have to worry about it as much, which is why, again, I think Surging Strikes and Wicked Blow are both going to be really, really incredible to use in Reg D. Oh yeah, and did I mention that they both get Swords Dance now? I don't know if that was the case back in Gen 8. I think that they added it this gen. I could be very wrong on that. But yeah, this already strong Pokemon that can hit through Protect and can crit with their signature move also gets Swords Dance. So if you see it out on the field, yeah, there are some times where they may protect it or they may have a redirector. But if you can, get this thing off the field as quick as you can. But again, I think you guys are going to have a lot of chance to be able to see it because I think a lot of people are going to end up running with it. But again, if you guys do see it, try to get it off the field as quick as you possibly can. So that's our list. And again, only time will tell what Pokemon are going to be most impactful in Regulation D. But as of right now, these are the Pokemon that I think are going to be the most interesting as we get into Regulation D in July. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to drop a like. We'll see you guys next time.